I'm reading from the book Christian Mystics, 365 Readings and Meditations by Matthew Fox. Matthew Fox is described as a spiritual maverick who believes that through the ages, religious patriarchal hierarchy and rigidity has obscured Christianity's most beneficial and essential teachings, those that arise out of a personal, mystical experience of the divine. A true religious renewal, according to Fox, can only arise through the mystical dimension of faith. So I'm going to read now from the introduction. Albert Einstein was asked towards the end of his life if he had any regrets. He answered, "I wish I had read more of the mystics earlier in my life." This is a significant confession, coming as it does from one of the greatest geniuses of the 20th century, a man who moved beyond the modern science of Newton and ushered in a postmodern science and consciousness. In the West, in the modern age, meaning the 16th to the 20th century, was not only ignorant of, but actually hostile to mysticism. As Fyodor Rossak has put it, the Enlightenment held mysticism up for ridicule as the worst offense against science and reason. Still today, both education and religion are often hostile to mysticism. Fundamentalism, by definition, is anti-mystical or distorts mysticism. And much of liberal theology and religion is so academic and left-brain that it numbs and ignores the right brain, which is our mystical brain. Seminaries teach few practices to access our mysticism. This is why many find religion so boring. It lacks the adventure and inner exploration that our souls yearn for. As St. John of the Cross said, "Launch out into the deep." This launching into the depths, into the deep ocean of the unconscious and of the great self, which is connected to all things and to the Creator, often gets stymied by Western religious dogma, guilt trips, and institutional churchiness. The mystic gets starved. Patriarchal culture by itself is unable to tap into the deep, permanent aspects of divine wisdom and compassion and the heart. But the mystics, male and female, do not present a one-sided reality as patriarchy does. The yin-yang, female-male dialectic is alive and well in the mystical tradition. God as mother is honored along with God as father. Through this, mystics seek wisdom, not mere knowledge. The West remains so out of touch with its own mystical tradition that many Westerners seeking mysticism still feel they have to go east to find it. While this can work for many brave and generous individuals, it cannot work for the entire culture. Carl Jung warned us that we Westerners cannot be pirates, thieving wisdom from foreign shores that it has taken them centuries to develop, as if our own culture was an era outlived. Is Western culture an era outlived? Or is there wisdom deep within our roots that can be accessed anew and that can give us strength and understanding at this critical time when so much is falling apart the world over, when climate change and destruction of the earth accelerate and so many species are disappearing, while our banking systems and economic belief systems, our forms of education and forms of worship are failing? I believe that there is great wisdom in our species and in Western spiritual traditions, but that this needs a new birth and a fresh beginning. As a Westerner, I must begin where I stand within my own culture and its traditions. The crises we find ourselves in as a species require that as a species, we shake up all our institutions, including our religious ones, and reinvent them. Change is necessary for our survival, and we often turn to the mystics at critical times like this. Jung said, only the mystics bring what is creative to religion itself. Jesus was a mystic, shaking up his religion and the Roman Empire. Buddha was a mystic who shook up the prevailing Hinduism of his day. Gandhi was a mystic, shaking up Hinduism and challenging the British Empire. And Martin Luther King Jr. shook up his tradition and America's segregationist society. The mystics walk their talk and talk, often in memorable poetic phraseology, their walk. Deep down, each one of us is a mystic. When we tap into that energy, we become alive and we give birth. From the creativity that we release is born the prophetic vision and work that we all aspire to realize as our gift to the world. We want to serve in whatever capacity we can. Getting in touch with the mystic inside is the beginning of our deep service. Today, there is a genuine effort around the world at deep ecumenism or interfaith, the coming together of the spiritual wisdom traditions of the world. That is a positive development. But the Dalai Lama points out that the number one obstacle to interfaith is a bad relationship with one's own faith tradition. It is pitiful how few Christian leaders and Christian teachers, including in seminaries, know their own mystical lineage. These days, as revelations come to light about darkness in the Catholic Church, it is all the more important to pay attention to that which is true and deep and beautiful in the work of our Christian ancestors. Through the ages, even to today, Christian mystics and activists have stirred hearts and souls. It is valuable at a time of church reformation and even revolution to tap into this wellspring of truth and renewal. Mystical Christianity is a very well-kept secret. It does not serve the interests of empire or patriarchy or churches, but it is coming alive again. A very respected contemporary biblical scholar, John Dominic Crossan, points out that for Paul, the first Christian theologian and the first writer in the New Testament, you cannot be a Christian without being a mystic. A new age is dawning. If that is the case, and none too soon. Our ancestors were mystics. We can be also. Hopefully, our generation will not suffer the mystical illiteracy of the past few centuries that Albert Einstein lamented. We cannot afford to. To survive, our species must draw on the deepest gifts we possess. Mysticism is among the finest of these gifts, for mysticism is about the awe and the gratitude, the letting go and the letting be, the birthing and the creativity and the compassion, including healing and celebration and justice making that our world so sorely needs. The prophet or spiritual wisdom is the mystic in action. As American philosopher William Hocking observed, every mystic is a healer. We are healers all. Now, Paul and Gayatriprana to give her talk.
My topic is Jesus Christ and Sri Ramakrishna, the two incarnations. The God, the Lord of the universe, out of his infinite compassion and concern for suffering humanity, assumes a human form. The Lord is in the transcendental realm, plane, but he comes down to the physical plane. The divine spirit comes to the physical plane, lives among human beings as a human being. And when does it happen? When human affairs become too chaotic through lack of morality and love. That's when there's a need. In the Bhagavad Gita, we see Sri Krishna saying when righteousness is trodden down and unrighteousness prevails, then the Lord comes down. That's what, through lack of morality, lack of love for other people. Then the Lord comes down to set things right. In Sanskrit, for the word for incarnation is avatara. Avatarana means coming down. The Lord comes down to the human. Not that coming in a what to say, physically coming, physical sense, coming down from somewhere. He is sitting up somewhere and coming down. No, coming down from the transcendental plane to the physical plane where we live. So in the incarnation, we find the highest manifestation of divine love, divine power, divine purity, and divine wisdom. Everything. Now, if you look at all the different religions that we have in the world, only Hinduism and Christianity speaks of an incarnation. The other religions don't have incarnation. They have only God, whatever the names they say. Of course, Buddhism doesn't accept God. Judaism, they don't have no prophets are there, but no Son of God or incarnation. Islam doesn't have. Only Christianity. Only difference between Hinduism and Christianity here is Hinduism believes that whenever there is a need, the Lord comes down. So we have several incarnations. And we think the latest one, Sri Ramakrishna, we looked upon Sri Ramakrishna as one of the incarnations. Whereas for Christianity, Jesus Christ is the only one. That is the difference. But we can see when you compare or look at the lives of Jesus Christ and Sri Ramakrishna, we see so many similarities. Because as just now Robert read, mystics, they are on a different level. So whatever be the Christian, whatever be the faith, mystics speak the same language because they are all tapping into the same experiences in that higher transcendental realm. These incarnations, they lead a life of God consciousness without any struggle. See, for us to concentrate our mind on God, how much struggle we have to. Those who are trying to concentrate the mind, they know how hard it is. The mind is so hard to concentrate. And then to keep the mind on that higher point of contact, on a higher level, it's very, very hard. But for these people, for the incarnation, they lead a God-centered life, fully conscious of their divinity without any struggle. The superconscious state is a natural state for them. They don't have to struggle for that. They have to struggle to bring their mind down to ordinary consciousness. We can see Sri Ramakrishna at any least suggestion, his mind goes up. He goes into ecstasy, into trance. Then he has to struggle. He keeps in some sort of desire, a little bit of desire to bring the mind down. You can, if you read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, you can see often he says, I'll drink a glass of water. I'll drink some water. That desire he kept to bring the mind down. Otherwise, his mind is roaming in the higher realms and he wants to talk to the devotees. What is the point of taking a human form if he is not able to interact with human beings? God takes a human form to lead us towards God. Not the God is coming down to take us up. Just like we say, the child is on the bottom, at the bottom of the staircase, and the mother is standing up. So what does the mother do? The child can't climb up. So she comes down and holds the hand and lifts the child, help the child go up the steps. Similarly, we are not able to reach God by ourselves. So God comes down to our level. And if God is if the incarnation after taking a human form remains on the transcendental plane only, but the purpose is not fulfilled. So you can see Sri Ramakrishna keeping certain little desires to keep the mind on the ordinary level of consciousness. They are conscious of their mission. Why have they taken human form? In the life of Jesus, we see when he was 7 or 8 years old, his parents took him to Jerusalem to attend some festival in the temple. And after that, everything was finished. The whole party is going back. A big lot of people together, and the parents thought that the child is away in the group with somebody. But at the end of the day, they found he is missing. Where did he go? It's only a little child. Where did he go? They searched everywhere, couldn't find. So they walked. At that time, it's mostly walking. They went back to the temple in Jerusalem by the time next day. And they found him seated there in an assembly of scholars discussing some deep religious ideas. And then when the mother complained, why did you do this? We are searching for you. Then what was his answer? Why are you worrying? Didn't you know that I have to be in my father's business? Mother didn't understand what is his boy saying. Mary didn't understand what he's meant. How is that you sought me? Don't you know that I'm about my father's business? He's dealing with the difficult or deep questions of religious theology. He was answering them and discussing with the scholars. You can see almost similar incident in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. When he was in Kamarpukur, one day there was in connection with some celebration in the house of the landlord, Lahas. There was a meeting of scholars. And the scholars were discussing different things, and some different points were raised, couldn't find an answer. And a lot of the village children were collected there, but they didn't understand what these scholars were discussing. And so they sat, all these boys, little boys sat there imitating their actions and the facial expressions, and they were having great fun. Whereas Gadadhar, that is the Sri Ramakrishna's boyhood name, he also was sitting there, but he was listening to them very attentively. And then at one point where they could not find a solution to the problem on hand, he quietly spoke to the scholar who was sitting, Pandit who was sitting next to him. And isn't this the answer for that question? And the man was surprised. And then he told to all the others, here, look at this little boy, what he's saying, this is the answer. And that everybody was surprised how, to the point, he gave the correct answer. So the same thing, he was with, as incarnations, that they are conscious of their mission. They have come for a particular mission. But it is not easy to recognize them and understand them. When Jesus was there, often people used to say, isn't he Joseph's son? A carpenter's son? What is he? What is he? Why is he teaching now? The same Sri Ramakrishna. This is a mad priest. It's not easy. Sri Krishna says in the Gita, because they don't understand the greatness, they look down on the incarnation. In their lifetime, it happens. Avajanande mamudha manushim tanumashrita. Because taken a human form, the ignorant people don't recognize. So they look down, ridicule. All this happens. Disregard the instructions. Because for outward appearance, they are just like us. They have all the feelings of us. Eat, their hunger, thirst, sleep, sickness, happiness, misery, everything is there. When they're happy, they laugh like us. They're happy, sad, weep like us. It's surprising. How can they weep? They're God. We see that Jesus wept when Lazarus passed away, and hearing that Jesus went there, the two sisters, his sisters, Mary and Martha, they wept and saying that if you are here, he would not have died. So he was already dead for a few days. But then Jesus brought him back to life. In the gospel, we can see this being referred to by Yam, the recorder of gospel. Because Sri Ramakrishna went to the house of a devotee, a lady, a widow, and she and her sister were preparing for Sri Ramakrishna's coming. Because the sister, the lady who was devotee, the sister was not a devotee, the lady who was devotee later came by the name, known as the name by Golapma. She was so overwhelmed that when Sri Ramakrishna came, that she was sitting there and looking, just standing and looking at the face, not doing anything else, and looking at all the devotees who have come with Sri Ramakrishna. And then the sister was complaining, you please ask my sister to come and help. How can I manage everything? Then later, Yam told Sri Ramakrishna, similar thing happened in the life of Jesus Christ. Then Sri Ramakrishna asked for the story, and then Yam tells. And then when Yam says that Jesus brought Lazarus back to life, then Sri Ramakrishna said, but I can't do that. I can't do such things. Then there's an explanation. That's all miracles. Why did Jesus did all these miracles? Because people could not understand. They had to show, he had to show these miracles to make the people understand that he is a divine messenger. But by his own nature, he would not have done it. He was forced to do it. That's the only way the people were not that spiritually evolved to understand his greatness. But in the beginning, earlier when he was tempted by the devil, that he was taken to the top of the building and said, you jump down, and then if you are son of God, God will protect you and all that. Then he said, you should not tempt God. This is not the thing to prove. Miracles are not the things to prove the divinity. But it's not, that's not something impossible. Because if you look at the yoga philosophy, you can see that when you have control over the prana, the subtle energy, you can have control over everything. Swami Vivekananda says those yogis who have got full control over prana have got full control over the whole nature. Whatever they wish will happen. So Jesus brought the dead back to life, gave life sight to the blind, made cripple all right. It's nothing strange because he's a great yogi. He has got full control over the prana. So that means control over the whole nature, all the physical nature. Sri Ramakrishna also, we can see him weeping. Not for, of course, we see him he wept when his mother passed away. And again, we see one of the devotees, a member who used to come, an elderly man, Mani Malik, his son passed away. Now, for a parent to lose a child, to cremate the child or bury the child, it's very, very, very hard thing. It is harder than for the child to lose a parent. When a child means, I mean, not as a little child, but as an adult losing the parent, it's hard. But no, don't say it's easy, but it's much, much harder for the parent to do the funeral for the child, son or daughter. Now this man, his son, he lost his son. Straight from the burial ground, he came to Sri Ramakrishna. He could not control himself. And he wept. Sri Ramakrishna wept with him, as though he lost his child. And after that, then after a few minutes moment, when the father's grief had reduced a little, Sri Ramakrishna completely changed his tone. And he sang a song saying, death is coming. Take up arms. Divine Mother, God's name. That's the arm we had to arm yourself with the God's name. Death is entering the house, giving strength to the person. So they have incarnation. Because they have taken a human form, they behave just like us. When they're happy, they laugh. When they're sad, they weep. So how can they understand people? How can ordinary people can understand? It's very difficult. But their own statements reveal their divinity. It is through their own statement that we can understand, get some glimpse that these are divine beings taken a human form. For example, Jesus says, if God were your father, you would love me, for I proceeded forth and came from God. Neither came I of myself, but he who sent me. During his last illness, when he was suffering from the cancer, Sri Ramakrishna says, there are two persons in this body. One is the Divine Mother. The other is her devotee. So two people are there in the same body. Divine Mother and her devotee, because his attitude was a devotee of the Divine Mother. And then he says, it is a devotee who is suffering from this disease in the throat. So they are fully conscious that statements reveal the divinity. And at another time, Sri Ramakrishna says, this body is just like the shell of a pumpkin or gold. Everything is scooped out. There is nothing but God inside. And another characteristics of these divine beings are they speak with authority. Their words are forceful because of the inner realization. They are not speaking from texts or quoting text. They don't have to quote text. We quote this book and that book. We quote from the Upanishads. We quote from the Gita or different books. They don't have to quote. Their words are so powerful because of the inner realization. The words become living and they touch the heart. They go straight to the heart of the listener. The philosopher or theologian has intellectual ideas. As Swami Vivekananda says, you read a lot of books, you become a scholar. But it's far away from realization. The scholars or theologian, philosopher, they get ideas, spiritual, intellectual ideas. But incarnation has got the backing of personal realization. The mystics, they have realization. That we see in the case of both Jesus and Sri Ramakrishna, we can see how people say they spoke with authority. For example, in the Gospel of Matthew, we see, and it came to pass when Jesus had ended these sayings, the people were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as one having authority and not as the scribes. Authority, given authority. Sri Ramakrishna says, unless one has authority from God, the teachings won't be effective. And he says when one with authority from God, one who has given command, God's command to teach, he possesses such irresistible attraction that people come to him of their own accord. Such a preacher may not be a scholarly person, but don't conclude from that he has any lack of wisdom. He who has commission from God never runs short of wisdom. And Sri Ramakrishna says, the Divine Mother pushes, gives him supply, keep constant supply of wisdom. We see that in the life of Swami Vivekananda. When Swamiji was in the West, he was, especially in the first time, soon after the success in the Parliament of Religions, he was invited and he was giving so many talks from place to place every day. And sometimes he was wondering, what am I going to speak the next day? Run out of ideas. And at night, he is trying to sleep and he hears some new ideas to be given. Who is giving these ideas? When later, when somebody asked that question, who gave this? Was it Sri Ramakrishna giving the ideas? Swamiji didn't want to elaborate on that. But the divine is pushing the ideas, though whether the person, the preacher, the divine incarnation is an intelligent person or not a scholar, don't think that they don't have wisdom. Sri Ramakrishna, as far as ordinary people are concerned, he was illiterate. He knew how to read and write his language, modern Bengali, mother tongue. He was not even expert in Sanskrit. Though his brother was running a Sanskrit school, he was not interested in studying. But he never lacked wisdom. All these great scholars, pandits, highly educated, modern educated people, and the graduates of Calcutta University of at that time, They all came and sat at his feet, listening for hours together. Where did all this wisdom come? Because they are the storehouse of wisdom. They have realized the union with God, and God we describe as Sat Chit Ananda, existence, knowledge, bliss. There. So if you are in touch with the source of knowledge, you won't lack any wisdom at all, and they speak with authority. Pratap Chandra Majumdar, a Brahma leader, he wrote an article about Sri Ramakrishna. He says, I, a Europeanized, civilized, self-centered, so-called educated reasoner, and he, that is Sri Ramakrishna, a poor, illiterate, unpolished, half-idolatrous Hindu devotee. Why should I sit long hours to attend to him? I, who had listened to Disraeli and Fawcett, Stanley and Max Muller, and a whole host of European scholars and divines. And it is not I only, but dozens like me who do the same. You can listen to Sri Ramakrishna. His religion means ecstasy. His worship means transcendental insight. His whole nature burns day and night with the permanent fire and fever of a strange faith and feeling. He has no other thought, no other occupation, no other relation, no other friend than God. He was fully, as M told Ishwarchandra Vidyasagar when Sri Ramakrishna wanted to meet him, what sort of a holy man is he? Then M says he lives in the Kali temple. He has got his room, got bed, mattress, mosquito net, because usually sadhus mean they sleep on the floor. They don't have mattress and bed and mattress and mosquito curtain, and he wears white dhuti and polished slippers. All these are there. There's no outward show of any religiosity, but there's a but. But he knows nothing but God. That is it. So that they can speak with authority. And these great teachers, they didn't give the teachings indiscriminately. They gave according to the need of the listener, the audience. According to the need, the spiritual evolution of their listeners. Jesus gave the Lord's Prayer, or the common prayer, to general public. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. It's a common prayer, Lord's Prayer. But to his chosen few disciples, the apostles, he gave the Sermon on the Mount. Why this discrimination? It's not a discrimination. Ordinary people can't understand the high teaching, the high idea. You cannot give something which you cannot digest. You cannot eat something which you cannot digest. You have to eat food which is suitable for your stomach, your development of the body. The same way, development of the mind, your spiritual growth. Something which is too much, you won't be able to understand. You won't be able to assimilate. So they gave different teachings. The same you can see in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Look at the Gospel. Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna is for the public. M recorded, he went, he being a teacher, he could go only on holidays, and he is free. And that's the time when all the other people come, all the devotees come. So you see Sri Ramakrishna's teaching meant for devotees in general, mainly householders. And that there also you can see the difference. Depending upon the person, he gives slightly different teachings. But his disciples who became the future monastics, the young disciples who later became monastics, he gave completely different teaching behind closed doors. He made sure nobody is around. He locked the door and then gave them teaching. Why you'll think that, oh, that's Sri Ramakrishna showing partiality? No, because if they ordinary people hears these high teachings that he gave them, their understanding will get confused. Sri Ramakrishna even said that some texts, Advaitic texts, are not suitable for people who live in the world. Because as long as you have got consciousness of the body, we do everything. We look out, we live in the world, look after the family, do our responsibilities and duties, and then think that I'm not the body, I am the Atman. It won't happen. It's not only lip service, not good. So Sri Ramakrishna told Yam, no, Avadhuta Gita and such other texts are not for you. Sri Krishna says, Nabuddhi Vedam Janayet Ajnanam Karma Sanginam. An enlightened person should not cause confusion in the mind of ignorant people. By giving the highest teaching for spiritually undeveloped people, will be causing confusion in their mind. We should not do that. So that is why we see two types of teachings. The one for the general public, for people like us, and another different one for highly evolved disciples. But you can, in whatever be the teaching they gave, they always emphasized spiritual life, the need for leading a spiritual life. And also we can see that both Jesus and Sri Ramakrishna stressed or emphasized the idea that to have spiritual experiences, you should overcome lower tendencies. As long as you are under the control of lower tendencies, you will not be able to have spiritual experiences. People start spiritual practices and they immediately they will say, oh, I have this experience, I had this vision, I had this God appeared in this form to me. This is all maybe sometimes could be psychic experience, sometimes mere imagination. Unless you are able to overcome the lower tendencies, we cannot have spiritual experiences. That's why Jesus says you cannot serve God and mammon at the same time. Thomas A. Kempis, in his Imitation of Christ, says, unless we overcome inordinate affections, there is no possibility of realizing God. There is no possibility, definitely he is saying, there's no possibility of realizing God. He is a mystic. He's saying that. And these incarnations or divine personalities, they are not mere visionaries asking us to shun the world. Just because we say that unless you have, till you overcome the lower tendencies, you won't have God realization. That doesn't mean that they are asking us to leave the world. No. They showed how to apply these high ideals in our day-to-day life, in daily life. First realize God, then apply that knowledge of God in everyday life. In Matthew's Gospel, we see Jesus saying, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. First seek God and God's righteousness, and then everything will be added. What does Sri Ramakrishna say? You put digit 1 and then add the zeros. You get a big number. That one, the first digit 1 is God. If you remove that 1, does the zeros have any value? No value at all. So first have God. Realize God, and then do everything. They are not saying, no, don't do anything. again, Sri Ramakrishna says, with the divine knowledge of Advaita, that is, I am one with God, with that knowledge, tied to your cloth, do whatever you wish, for no evil can come out of you. Once you have that knowledge, once you realize God, then you live in the world, no problem. Nothing will happen. You will be leading a God-centered life. You will be dealing everything with your family, friends, you're doing your duties, but you're, as Sri Ramakrishna says, you'll be holding on to God with one hand and doing the duty with the other. Now, how are we to attain this kingdom of God or union with God? It's very easy to say, seek God first, seek the kingdom of God first, but how? Well, they have given us the method also. Love God, call on God, prayer and love of God and prayer. So Jesus was asked, what's the first and highest command? His reply was, thou shalt love God the Lord. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind, and with all thy strength. That's the first commandment. And the most important one. Love the Lord thy God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. Love God, love God. That's the most important thing. And Sri Ramakrishna says the same thing. Cry to Lord with an intensely yearning heart. When he was asked how can one realize God? What are the means? Sri Ramakrishna says, cry to the Lord with an intensely yearning heart, and you will certainly see him. Definitely. There's no doubt about that. You will certainly see him. Cry to him with a real cry. And that is the problem. How many of us cry for God? Then Sri Ramakrishna says in a joking way, people shed tears, jug full of tears for husband, wife, money, all those things. But who cries for God? Nobody cries for God. If you intensely you are able to shed tears for God. I have not able to see you. Please reveal yourself. I want to see you. I want to love you. If you really weep for God like that, then you'll see him. And Sri Ramakrishna showed in his life how much he wept. If you read the life of Sri Ramakrishna, you can see how he wept for the Divine Mother. And Sri Ramakrishna, he's continuing. God reveals himself to a devotee who feels drawn to him by the combined force of these attractions. That's a very interesting idea he's giving, Sri Ramakrishna is giving. God reveals himself to a devotee who feels drawn to him by the combined force of these attractions. The three attractions, he says. The attraction of worldly possessions for the worldly man, the child's attraction for its mother, and the husband's attraction for the chaste wife. If we can combine these three attractions and turn it to God, then we will see God. So it is necessary to pray to him with a longing heart. That's the most important thing. And then there's more. That is most important thing. Then there are other conditions also. Purity of heart. That's another necessary condition for realization. That is why one of the beatitudes that the ideas that he gave in his Sermon on the Mount, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. To see God, they have to be pure in heart. Kingdom of heaven, kingdom of God is within you. That's what Jesus is teaching. So why are we not seeing the king? If kingdom is within us, so the king also must be there. But we are not able to see the king. Why? Because we have put a big curtain in front of our eyes. We are blinded with all the impurities, with our attachment, our attachment and aversion, our prejudices. We have got so many, the baggage. So that is blinding us. That is why purity of heart is very, very important. And Sri Ramakrishna says, if you shed tears for God, then those impurities will be removed. The example he gives is, suppose a needle covered with mud is kept near a magnet. Will the magnet be able to attract it? No. You wash away the mud, immediately the magnet will attract. At present, our mind is like that, completely covered with mud. So we are not feeling the attraction of God. We shed tears of praying to God, then those impurities will be slowly removed, and then we can feel the attraction. God will reveal himself. And for that you need self-effort. Who is going to do that? Who is going to remove all the dirt from our mind? Is somebody going to come and sweep it for you? No. No, you have to do yourself. Nobody can do. No holy person, no spiritual teacher can do that. We have to do the hard work ourselves. Patiently with perseverance. Do it for a few days and then stop. Oh, I prayed for so many days. God hasn't revealed himself to me. So there is no God. That won't do. We have added the mud for thousands of lives, perhaps. We don't know. So it may take time, depending upon our intensity and sincerity. We have to be patiently persevere in our self-effort. That's why Sri Ramakrishna says, call on God with a longing heart. And this self-effort and perseverance, you see, Jesus, when he said, knock and it shall be opened unto you. You have to knock. Otherwise, nobody is going to open the door for you. Seek and you shall find. Sitting quietly, let God come to me. I'll sit. I have surrendered everything to God. I'll let God come. Not going to come. Even if God comes, you won't understand. You won't recognize. Because your heart and mind are blinded with impurities. So we have to, through self-effort and try to realize, remove the impurities, then slowly we'll be able to persevere. And how are we to pray to God? Prayer is not something which will be done in public. Prayer is something between you and God. It is not for show. Once I remember we have went for some meeting to the city. The meeting was in the Hyde Park. It was a interfaith prayer meeting, and we went to attended the meeting, and then coming back, and we saw a person sitting in meditation in Hyde Park on the bay. What sort of meditation? Is showing to everybody, I'm meditating. Prayer and meditation, all these things, is not for show, public show. It is an affair between you and God. So Jesus says, when you pray, you shall not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. And thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. That's how we are supposed to pray. Not for in showing off in front of everybody. Well, making a big show of your spiritual practices, well, people may say, oh, so and so is such a great devotee. spend so much time in prayer and doing all this puja, worship and everything. But you may become famous, that's all. Not that you will realize God. It is between you and God. So Sri Ramakrishna says there are 3 types of devotees: Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic. Sattvic, the superior devotee, prays, does sit for meditation behind a closed door. And in his usual way, he says, maybe he is sitting inside a mosquito curtain and hasn't come out of the room. So people think, oh, he's sleeping late. But he's meditating. He doesn't show to other, no outward expression. And his worship is mostly mental worship, do the worship mentally, not with elaborate items. But Rajasic, big show. So many items, items of worship, elaborate, inviting so many people. And the shrine, Sri Ramakrishna says, that when visitor comes, he'll show around, this is our marble floor. Whether marble floor or mud floor, how is your heart? That's what God looks at. As Sri Krishna says, the offering, if you offer a leaf of water or a fruit, even he says even water, with love, that love offering I accept. But showing off, where is love? There is no love for God there, because we want to show off to people. People say, oh, such and so did such big worship. Spend so much of money on the worship. Oh, great devotee. There's no devotion. Except devotion, everything is there. That is Rajasic devotee. And Tamasic devotee, Ramakrishna says, they are like robbers. They demand on God. What? Won't you reveal yourself to me? I'll cut my throat. That is Tamasic devotee. But they're forceful, not like the Rajasic devotee who shows off. But the main idea is prayer should be in secret. And as Jesus says, thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. And love for God should take practical shape in service to man. Love of God, that's good. But it should be, what's the practical aspect of that? That is service to man. Jesus exhorted his disciples to spread his teachings, to serve and love man with spiritual teaching and succor. He says, you go and heal the sick, give sight to the blind, all those things to help the people. But main thing is love God. That's the most important thing. Only then comes service to man, serve person. That's why Sri Ramakrishna said, it's not compassion, but service. Who are you to show compassion? God, it's only God can show compassion. We can only serve. Serve man, seeing the presence of God in that person. We should not forget that in serving man, don't forget God. That's what happens with this often with the philanthropists. They go around helping people. They forget that there's a presence of divine within. Swami Vivekananda says, when you do any service to a person, the person who is giving should kneel down, because the poor person has given you a chance to help, given you an opportunity to serve the person. We should never forget that the primary command is love God. And then only comes service to man. So it is not just philanthropy that we have to do, but service to God, serving the God in that person who is needy or suffering, whatever the case may be. As Sri Ramakrishna says, Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. serve the human being, man, seeing the Shiva, God in him. Swami Vivekananda had great regard for Jesus Christ. When after Sri Ramakrishna's passing away, they all, in December 1886, a few young disciples, Narendra and few of them, went to the ancestral home of one of them. And there one day, they in the village, under the night sky, they lighted a fire and then sat around it. It's December, it's winter, sat around it and meditated. And Narendra told them, let's be like the ancient ascetics sitting around the Dhuni fire. They sat around the fire and meditated for a long time. And then Narendra gave a very inspiring talk to his brother disciples about the life of Jesus, how he has renounced everything for the sake of God, and he gave even his life as an offering to serve humanity and all that. And in the end, he said, let's also dedicate ourselves like that. And later they found it was Christmas Eve, 24th December. Then there is how apt it is. Our vow of dedication to God happened on the same as on Jesus' birthday, Christmas Eve. So let me conclude with a few words that Swamiji says. He says, had I lived in Palestine in the days of Jesus of Nazareth, I would have washed his feet, not with my tears, but with my heart's blood. That shows his great respect and reverence for Jesus Christ. May the light of Christ, which brings blessing to all humanity, enter our hearts and soul. And may we be able to make our heart a fit dwelling place for his grace. For that, we pray to him.
Just a reminder, we've got the public celebration of Holy Mother's birthday this coming Sunday here in Vedanta Hall. Will be open from 10:30. It will conclude with lunch, and that's open till 10. Please stay back and get a share of the offered sweets and savouries. And wishing you all the season's best wishes. Happy New Year. Let's wish for an even better year next year, more peaceful world.